My name's Carla Williams. I was at Transformation Park off and on from the day they opened up the safe space on May 21st up through January 12th. Most of it I spent there. There were a few times I was gone for a couple of months. I think the last time I had some problems going on, personal issues that I didn't feel needed to be brought there. So I left and took care of those issues and finally decided it was time to get myself back together and go back. I went back on November 12th, if I'm not mistaken, which was the day I got my ID back. And from then on, it took me approximately 1 month and 13 days to complete all tasks that I had set forth to do. That was to get a home. That was my biggest thing. But in the process, I had to get my ID and let's see, my ID, my voucher, and then my to find a house. And I did all that in 1 month and 13 days. And they were a great help. Um, Gosh, I've known Heather for from the time she started at the resource center through now. She was a big help. Chris Perkle, I didn't really know until he came to Transformation Park, but he was the biggest one all that really done what I needed done. And I thank him because if without them, I wouldn't have gotten anywhere. And that's what I keep trying to stress to everybody: do what you got to do so that you can get a home or get back home wherever you want to be. They do help. That's the big thing. They help in so many ways. They're still helping to this day. I could walk over there and say, "Hey, Chris, I need some tea bags, or I need some sugar," and they hand it to me. They help me out with everything that I needed. When I left, I moved into a house. I had nothing, literally nothing but the clothes on my back and 3 bins. I think is what I took with me. Miss Heather gave me a cot and a mattress, so that I had something to sleep on. So they do help. Oh, okay. I knew that was going to happen. Um, let's see. My story. Let's start with this. I was born and raised in the Poconos of Pennsylvania um, to alcoholic parents. The parents didn't have custody of me for very long. My grandmother did. She took me away from them because of the alcoholism and the fact that my mother didn't really want me. There's a long story to that. I graduated high school um, with a 4.3 GPA. Being a mother at the age of 16, I still completed my high school and did that. After graduating, during the time I was in high school, in my senior year, I decided I was going to go in the military. I signed to go into the Army in June of 1982, and I left for boot camp in November of 1982. No, needless to say, 2 weeks before I was to leave, I was in a bad car accident and messed up my leg. They operated in boot camp and therefore sent me back home. So there went my career that I thought I could have. Um, After that, I guess I just kind of wandered. I didn't know what to do, didn't know how to do it. I worked. It's one of the things I did do so that I had my own money. I didn't worry about my parents taking care of me or anybody else. At the age of 21, I got pregnant with my second child. I married her father, and then had two other children, a boy and a girl after her. Altogether, I have 4 children. Their age and range, their ages are 45, 40, 39, and 37. They've given me 8 wonderful grandkids. um, but after marrying him, we were married for, I got to get this right, 4 years, 4 years and 3 months. He was in a violent car accident and he lost his life. I was 8 months pregnant for my baby. After that, had bought myself a home, but I placed it into a place where my mother and father lived. Still not getting along with my mom, I ended up having to move out, which that was fine. I left everything behind, took my 3 of my 4 kids with me because the other one my parents were raising. Um, Therefore, it was kind of hard. I was alone. I was staying with a friend. I met this man. Unfortunately, I say I married him 2 months later, which was a big mistake. Although I don't have any regrets about it. I was with him for 26 years. He raised my children. I raised his children. Um, During this time, we had a lot of ups and downs. Well, in December of 2006, I had gone to the doctors for an issue that I had, and he put me on pain pills. Thus began my opiate addiction. Um, it was bad, very bad. In 2014, I left Florida and went back home to Pennsylvania to my family with my husband. My kids were grown, so I was just him and I. And the addiction continued. Finally, one day I had had enough, I thought, and I called rehab. I got into a rehab. I did 30 days in the rehab. And then following that, I did 90 days in halfway house. It was the best experience I've ever had in my life. I learned a lot. Some things maybe I didn't need to learn, but I did. During that time, my best friend, who's no longer with us, got a hold of me via messenger and asked me if I wanted to come to Texas to stay with her and her boyfriend. She had stage 4 renal disease. I said yes. I came here and I took care of her. It was a long road. I was clean and sober for 365 days. 366th day, I relapsed. My husband had followed me here, which I really didn't want, but I left it at that. In April of 2016, I got up one day and I had had enough. And enough was enough was enough. I stood up off the couch and I said to him, I said, I'm done. This is done. And he said, what do you mean? I said, after what you've done to my daughter, I can't forgive you. I got to walk away. And I did. I walked away. I was with a man, which also happens to be my grandson's great uncle. And I went to stay with him for a while. Well, that was an on again, off again thing. And I just kind of wandered. So that there began my homelessness. I learned about the Resource Center, Salvation Army. I done all of the places, the city. And in, I want to say, August of 2016, I filed for my divorce from my husband. Um, I got my divorce December 9th of 2016, and it was great. I was great. Well, during all of this time, my daughter, Michelle, my second oldest, came to live in Texas. She was having marital issues, and we she stayed with my best friend and me. And then she met a man, and she started seeing him and had a baby. That didn't work out for her. They had lived with me and my boyfriend at the time, and they moved out. And me and my boyfriend were having problems. July 3rd of 2018 is a day I'll never forget, and I look back on it every day. My boyfriend beat me to within seconds of my life. I was found on the sidewalk of the Estes Motel. And during that time of being unconscious, I guess, I remember God coming to me and telling me, we're not ready for you. You have things to do. I didn't know what they were. Hence, this man went to jail for approximately 9 months. He probably would have gotten longer, but I couldn't remember certain instances of the beating. So he was let go. That was fine with me. I've since, I've forgiven him. I've moved on from the whole situation. Um, then I kind of, I was here, there, and all over living. I didn't really have anywhere to go. My daughter ended up in that situation, and she had a little boy. And I said, we can't do this. We can't do this without being with each other. Hence, COVID started. And we started staying at the Salvation Army. There was a lady there. She worked there, Miss Lynette. I love Miss Lynette to this day. But when I first met Miss Lynette, I called her every name under the sun. I told her she was a fat biatch, and I told her whatever. They were having families get vouchers for housing. Well, I didn't know it, but she put my name in, me and my daughters. One night we're at the Salvation Army. She tells me to pack up, and I thought she was telling us we had to leave. She said, "No, you got an apartment." It was in February of 2020. My daughter, me, and my grandbaby moved into the apartment, and it was great. Well, my daughter and I had a falling out. She moved out in July, moved in with her boyfriend, which that was okay. I didn't have a problem with that. And I stayed there. I had a 3 bedroom apartment by myself. It was lonely, but I dealt with it. I had a lot of people that I was friends with, a lot of, that would come by, check on me, make sure I was okay. Occasionally, some would stay overnight or a couple of nights, whatever. Um, Hence, I lost that. The landlord was an idiot, and because I wouldn't be a hoe for him, he had me evicted. That was fine. I moved out, and goodness, I can't even remember what I did then. Oh, I was staying with a friend. That's what I was. I was staying with a friend in the same complex, and running with my daughter here, there, and all over. She was doing her thing, and she introduced me to a young man, and I'm saying a young man. He was much younger than me, 25 years younger than me. And we were friends for a few months, and we started seeing each other, and uh, that was in September 15, 2021. And from that day forward, it was more hell than anything else I've ever been through. Um, I get because of his age. He's 37 today. So, of course, he was probably 32, 33. He wasn't ready to be settled down with anybody. He had asked me to marry him. I told him no. I continued to tell him no for quite a few years. Finally, I sat down and I said yes. He had gone to ISF, and I told him that when he came out of ISM, we would get married. Well, we went to the courthouse September 15th, 2023, and we done an informal marriage, which that, according to the way the paperwork is, that goes back to the day that we first started seeing each other. Say we started cohabitating. So our marriage date is actually September 21st or September 15th, 2021. Um, it said I went through a lot with him. He done jail, county jail, then he did ISF, and then he got picked up on a warrant for not reporting to probation. And I made him sit. I said, "You're going to stay there. You've only got so many days left. I'm not doing it no more." And he set it out. He got out May 24th of 2024. Came home, and I had bought a car because I had gotten a settlement. I got hit by a car March 30th of 2023 and broke my ankle. And they had put plates and screws in it. Well, I had sued the driver that did it because I was in a crosswalk, and I ended up with I got $32,000. I had bought a car and all kinds of things that I needed. I did extravagant things I shouldn't have done, maybe. Well, he come home from jail and he stole my car. I got it back the next day. I ended up finding him and punctured the tire, and they got it changed and took my car back. But I brought him back home yet again for the umpteenth time, which I knew I shouldn't have, but I did. Um, After that, it was rocky road, up, down. I didn't know which way was in or out. Well, I ended up losing that apartment because of the fighting that took place in that place, between my daughter and her boyfriend, and between me and my husband. Let's see, December 8th of 2024. We were sleeping on the sidewalk at the Guyan Sanders Resource Center, and it was cold. and I asked to be kept warm, and I was ignored. So the next morning, I got up, went inside, got warm, still not talking to my husband, and finally he went outside, and finally I went to check on him because I had a dog. Her name was Miracle. She was my miracle, and he had my dog in his arms. I said, "Put my dog down. You're not taking her. That's mine." And so he put her down, and we sat down, and I was joking with him, and trying to make things better. And I kind of slapped him on the shoulder, and he punched me back, and that was where I drew my line. I stood up and I said to him, I said, "Well, I said, I think it's time I go on my own." I said, "I can't do this no more with you." I said, "Between the cheating, the lying, the running off, never being around, you don't want to work, you don't want to do anything but chase after the drugs." I said, "And I can't do it anymore." So he left. He came by where I work. I work at Tropico, opening the door for customers. I also take care of a young lady who with autism, and I help with her issues. But he took off, like I said, and 2 days later he come by where I was working, and I had to run somewhere, and he says, "Meet me back here in 2 hours." He says, "I'll be here," and I said, "Okay." I go back to work. He doesn't show up. I don't see him. I don't hear from him. I don't nothing. Um, this went on until the middle of March of 25. March 25, he came to where I worked. He said he left her, this girl that he was seeing. I said, "Okay." So can we try again? I said, "Okay." Well, by this time I had another apartment. Brought him to my apartment. He got mad because of the people that I was associating with and that were at my house. 5 days later, I told him, I said, "It's time you go. I can't do it." So he left. I guess he went back to this girl. I don't know where he went actually. Well, then I was doing good, trying to get myself together. I had started another relationship. And in June, well, the end of May actually, I had gone out of the state to pick up a friend with some friends of mine. And I got back and somebody told me he was looking for me. So I went to the resource center the following day and there he stood. Well, I love this man and still do to this day that, of course, I ran straight to him. He came back and he said, "We're going to be clean and sober." We didn't want the addiction no more. So it was okay. Well, the guy I had previously been seeing, he was leaving to go elsewhere. And he told my husband, he said, promise me you'll take care of her. Don't hurt her again." My husband said, "Okay." The person left at 9 a.m. that morning, and my husband left me at noon. So it was a rough road there. I didn't know which way I was going. I didn't know how to go about it. I was devastated. I stayed at Transformation Park. Oh goodness, it was probably a month, maybe 2 months, and I couldn't take it anymore. I needed to be alone. I needed to go somewhere where I could deal with my issues. So I left there, and I ended up going to a friend's house, and I didn't have to be there. I was basically there to sleep at night. And I finally took my dog with me because she was my baby. During that time, I realized I wasn't taking care of her the way I should have, so I surrendered her to the pound. Um, Not long after that, I had an incident that came up, and I was trying to go see a friend staying at the same place where my husband stays, and I ended up having a stroke on the sidewalk across from the Wagon Wheel Motel. I think it was the most eye-opening experience I've ever had because what normally took me 20 minutes to walk took me 3 to 4 hours to go where I needed to go. And I don't like hospitals, I don't like doctors. But I got a hold of some other friends that were here from Missouri, and they took me to the hospital, and I stayed overnight. And it was definitely a stroke. They told me I needed to calm down, I needed to get clean and sober. You know, there were a lot of things I needed to do. And I said, okay. I went home. And the more I thought about it, the more I said, that was August 13th, if I'm not mistaken. I wanted so bad to come back to Transmission Park, but I didn't want people involved in what I was going through. I didn't want to talk about it. So I let it go. And finally, I said, this had to been late October, I think it was. I said, I need to get back to Transmission Park. I need to get my things together. I need to get it all sorted out so that I can get somewhere because I'm getting older. At that time, I said, I'm going to be 62 years old. And where am I? I'm in the streets. It's been going on for almost 10 years. Why? And I can't say it's the drugs. I'll be honest about that. It's not that. It's I'm a very egotistical, very stubborn, bullheaded woman that I want to do things on my own. I don't like help. Never have. And that's the one thing my dad always told me. Never rely on a man. And I don't. I do everything on my own. But finally, I did. I went to Miss Virginia and I said, I need to get my ID. That was a start. And she said, okay. She said, where are you staying? And I said, pretty much anywhere, everywhere, anywhere. She said, you need to get back to Transformation Park. And I said, I know. So I started calling and coming up. And just so happened one day, November 12th, they had an opening. And I was here. I never left the breezeway. I sat in the breezeway until they told me I could come in. I got back in there and I talked to Heather, I talked to Chris, James and Mark. They all know how hard I was working to try and get something done. And I told them, I said, I'm going to have everything that I need before Christmas time. That was my goal. And lo and behold, 2 days before Christmas, I got my doctor for my housing. And I was happy. I was also sad because I know there's so many people out here that one don't know how to do the things that I do. The two don't have the help to do the things they need to do. So with that said, let me say my daughter and I have a nonprofit to help the homeless. Eventually, we want to build tiny homes out of recyclables for the homeless. The name of our organization is called Something at a Nuttin. Um, if I can help one person before I leave this earth, that's all I want. One person. Because I know how hard it is. People don't understand that seeing people 10 years. I've seen some of the same faces out here for 10 years. And a lot of it's because one, they don't know how to do it, or two, they don't have the help to do it. They don't know where to go. I spread the word every day on where to go, how to do it. I'm a co-chair of the Lived Experience Advisory Committee. I'm also a veteran. I deal with Veterans Resource Center daily, and I try to get the word out to all the veterans on how to do things. If you need this done, go here or go, because there's resources out there. Believe it or not, there are many resources out there. It's been pretty good since I've been able to be in my housing. Since I got my housing, things have gone much better than I anticipated. The last thing that was on my list to get done, I could finally say, hopefully, will be done between May 8th and May 15th, and that is my divorce. It was filed March 10th. He served the papers March 13th. So now it's just waiting on him to respond and for us to go to court because they told me either way I would have my divorce. And with that, I mean that was my biggest thing was getting that done because I wanted the whole thing. I don't want it's not gone. It'll always be there because I still love the man, but I can't deal with him. I can't deal with what he does. I can't deal with how he goes through things. So I'm better off by myself. I can do things alone. I can get things done quicker and easier. And some people out here say I have a loud mouth. I talk too much. Well, yeah, I do because you know what? I know what you guys are going through. I didn't become an addict at number one until I was 52. Sorry, I was 52 years old. I've been an addict for 10 years, really, and it's hard. And being an addict, it's hard to get a lot done. So you've got to get yourself clean in order to be able to do anything. And that was my thing. And I know I can do it. There's people out here that can do it. I pray every day for each and every one of these guys out here because it can be done. Like life is so much easier without that burden, without the burden of living on a sidewalk or living in a tent. I mean, I don't know how I did it. I really don't, because I'm a clean person, and it drove me crazy seeing the dirt. But I guess that's it.